John chapter 11, verses 1 through 24. The title of this lesson is Jesus Loved Lazarus. Now a certain man was sick, named Lazarus of Bethany, the town of Mary and her sister Martha. It was that Mary which anointed the Lord with ointment and wiped his hair with her feet, whose brother Lazarus was sick. Therefore his sisters sent unto Jesus, saying, Lord, behold, the one you love is sick. When Jesus heard that, he said, This sickness is not unto death, but for the glory of God, that the Son of God might be glorified by this. Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. When he had heard therefore that he was sick, that Lazarus was sick, he stayed 2 days still in the same place where he was. Then, after that, he said to his disciples, Let's go into Judea again. His disciples said to him, Master, lately the Jews sought to stone you, and you're going there again? Jesus answered, Are there not 12 hours in the day? If any man walk in the day, he won't stumble, because he sees the light of this world. But if a man walk in the night, he stumbles, because there is no light in him. He said these things, and after that he said to them, Our friend Lazarus sleeps, but I go that I may awake him out of sleep. Then his disciples said, Lord, if he's asleep, he will do well. But Jesus spake of his death. They thought he had spoken of taking a nap and getting some rest. Then Jesus said to them plainly, Lazarus is dead, and I am glad for your sake that I was not there, to the intent that you may believe. Nevertheless, let's go to him. Then said Thomas to his fellow disciples, Let's go with him, that we may die with him. Then when Jesus came, he found that Lazarus had been laying in the grave for 4 days already. Now Bethany was near to Jerusalem, less than 2 miles away, and many of the Jews came to Martha and Mary to comfort them concerning their brother. Then Martha, as soon as she heard that Jesus was coming, went and met him, but Mary sat still in the house. Then said Martha unto Jesus, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But I know that even now, whatever you ask of God, he will give it to you. Jesus said to her, Your brother will rise again. Martha said to him, I know that he will rise again in the resurrection at the last day. 3 observations from this miracle. Number 1, we see the love of God, that it was and is perfect. Even though Jesus did not respond according to the expected schedule that Mary and Martha had laid out, come now, would have been their schedule, his love for this family was flawless. His love was perfect. The love of God, seen in the person of Jesus Christ, was perfect. Even though he wasn't responding the way they had anticipated, they surely thought he would come and heal Lazarus. His love was not flawed. He didn't neglect to go because he didn't love Lazarus, or didn't love Martha, or didn't love Mary. He loved Lazarus so much that they didn't even have to say, Lazarus is sick. They said, the one that you love is sick. And he knew that it was Lazarus. Apparently Lazarus was a very, very good friend to Jesus. But his love was perfect. Perhaps there were some people who doubted his love for Lazarus. Because of his actions, he stayed where he was. When he found out that Lazarus was sick, he stayed there for 2 more days. Then number 2, we see the leading of God, that it is sometimes puzzling. Jesus was doing all that the Spirit was leading him to do. Everything he did in his ministry, he did because the Spirit led him to do whatever it was that he did. Even though it didn't make sense to everyone around him, it was the leading of the Spirit that caused him to wait. And God's leading is sometimes very puzzling, especially when we feel urgency, when we feel danger, when we feel like, man, this problem has got to be solved right now. And the solution doesn't show up immediately. Sometimes the circumstance may go on till we're like, well, it's too late now. Lazarus had been in the grave for 4 days by the time Jesus got there. Not only had rigor mortis set in, but decay had set in. He was already beginning to rot. The leading of God is sometimes puzzling. It's often puzzling, but it's still perfect, just like the love of God is perfect. And then number 3, his life was prescribed. That is, the life of Christ was prescribed. Jesus was right on time to accomplish exactly what the Father's design for him really was. You may have heard it said, God's never late, but he's also never early. He's always right on time. I was actually thinking about this earlier today. If someone would have called Jesus in the middle of the night and said, hey, I need you to come to the hospital and visit my loved one, we would assume that Jesus would get up and go. And maybe in most cases he would. That's what people think pastors do. It actually doesn't happen very often, but in this circumstance, he did nothing. He just kept doing what he was doing. But it was exactly according to plan. Jesus' life was prescribed, and he was right on time when he showed up in the graveyard where Lazarus was buried. By the way, he's right on time in our lives as well. Every time. Never early and never late. Take these truths and apply them to your own life. God's love for you is perfect. God's leading in your life is perfect. And God's prescription and plan for your life is sure. He knows your whole story, start to finish. There are no accidents. There are no incidental things that happen without purpose. All things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to his purpose. Jesus loved Lazarus in a very practical way. He loved Lazarus. He loves all of us, but his love for Lazarus was particularly evident to the people around him. The truth is, his love for me is very evident to me, and I hope to the people around me. And his love for you is just as sure. Rejoice in this. Put your name in there. We usually do that with John chapter 3, verse 16. For God so loved the world. And we'll put people's names right there for world. For God so loved David Talley that he gave his only begotten son. Put your name in the title of this lesson. Jesus loved Lazarus. Jesus loved David Talley. Put your name there. Jesus loved